All right, so we are getting going here. Okay, so we are, so we are being directed as well to YouTube and on Facebook, so that's perfect. So I see the little dialing thing going here. So we will get going and hopefully YouTube will pick up where we start. Okay, so all right, so we are getting going here. Okay, so we are, so we are being directed. All right, I am going to unmute myself on the other line, as you can see. Okay, so welcome to Money Matters. I am Hung Lu from Cash Property Inc., and we will be spending the next 30 minutes together to answer your real estate questions and analyze a deal. And today we are going to be looking into North Battleford. Okay, so I'll tell you a little bit about North Battleford and why I chose that little area. Okay, so before we go into the deal analysis, I've got 3 questions here to answer for you. Okay, the first one came in from Fiona. One of our Chinese friends recommended us to register and pass the exam to an RE, to be an RE agent. Okay, so a real estate agent. Okay. So because she told us there are many Chinese people who want to move to Oakville. So I'm assuming this is Oakville, Ontario, just west of Toronto. Okay. And what are my suggestions on proceeding with this? Okay. So, becoming a real estate agent has become more difficult as the years go on, partly because of all the regulations put on to make sure that the real estate agent profession upkeeps a certain standard, which is fantastic. And this, so in the last, I would say 2 years, there's been some questionable behaviors from, fake landlords, fake homeowners who claim that they own a certain home. And so then they're selling the home, taking deposits or, cash or whatever. And then the person who's buying the home, it's actually not there. Like they lose the deposit and they don't get the home. And then on top of that, if the deal does go through, the real owner finds out that they actually lost their home and now there's like a lien or a title on that property. The other issue that's come up in the last couple of years is people who are renting, they are being asked to give multiple months of rent up front to secure their place because renting has become actually very competitive in certain places. And so these renters, without knowing, will fork over, 3 months, 6 months, even up to a year of rent to these landlords. And then it turns out that these people are not the landlords. These people are just scammers. And then, these scammers take off. Okay. So becoming an agent is a great option if you want to get into real estate. If you are already in real estate, becoming an agent, one, is another stream of income within real estate, which is fantastic. And also, two, when you are a real estate agent, you have access to platforms that you would not get access to if you were just a regular person. Okay, so there's like, say, getting comps, getting deals before they're posted on Realtor or the other platforms, like, like the back end doorway of finding out the deals first, right? So getting access to certain deals first. So there's lots and lots of benefits of being an agent. So if you are serious about becoming an agent, what I would suggest is do a lot of research on it, because passing the course, it's not hard to pass the course, but it is time consuming, because every single year you do have to put in the effort to pass certain tests or quiz like exams. So, and then you also need to join a brokerage. So there's lots and lots of videos on YouTube talking about people's journey on becoming a real estate agent. So when I was looking at becoming an agent, 10 years ago, I decided I didn't really need that agent license to do what I'm doing in real estate. So I decided not to put my energy there. Okay. But that's not saying that it's not the right thing for you. Okay. So here's a couple of suggestions for becoming a real estate agent is one, make sure you have a minimum, okay, absolutely, minimum of 6 months of cash available. Okay, not access to cash, like not in a credit card, not in a HELOC, not, somewhere else out of country or something like that. Make sure you have 6 months of living expenses in cash in your bank account. Because when you're starting out with being an agent, you need to build your clientele. You need to get the experience. So you're going to be potentially not making a lot of money when you're first starting out in real estate. And you're still going to need to pay brokerage fees. You're still going to need to pay for marketing expenses, okay, networking expenses. So if you have a full-time job right now or working part-time, I would suggest that you keep your part-time or your full-time job, get your agent license, and then work that part-time. Make sure that that's really what you want to be doing. Okay. One of the reasons why I didn't become an agent was when I really sat down and thought about it, I was like, I don't want to give up my weekends. I don't want to be working evenings. Okay. And that is the traditional agent role, is where you have, let's say, a buyer, you're taking them out on evenings and weekends. If you're the seller's agent, well, you may need to be available for open houses. Okay. So now that is a traditional real estate agent. Okay. Now you can grow big and have other agents working for you, and then you get your weekends and evenings back. Okay. But it takes time to get there. Okay. So just keep that in mind, that when you're starting out, you're working a lot of evenings and weekends. Okay. So when I started in real estate, right, like I was working full-time as an engineer. And so all of my free time was learning how to renovate, going to open houses anyway. So I was already doing all of that stuff, but it was on my schedule. It wasn't a commitment that I had with anybody else. So there was a lot more freedom there. Okay. So then that leads me to my last suggestion is, if you're going to be a real estate agent, figure out if you want to do residential, commercial, and then figure out how you can be a special agent, meaning that you're not just a transactional agent. Okay. Look at a buyer as a multiple buyer, like a person who's going to buy multiple times from you. And I'm not talking like in 5 or 7 years, every one transaction. I'm talking like, okay, well, maybe this person will buy from you in the next 6 months to a year again, and then buy again in 6 months to a year. Okay. So you want to be more than just a transactional agent, and figure out how you can be that go-to person all the time. Okay. So of course it's a different mindset, because not everybody is going to be buying places every 6 months, every year. Okay. So it's figuring out how you can be more than just a transactional agent. Okay. Thank you for that question, Diona. Okay. So let's go to the next one. This one came in from Marco, and this is a follow-up to a question that came up last week about cap rates. So because in that answer question thing I did last week, I said, okay, cap rates is just one thing to look at. It's one indication, one number, and there's other things to look at. So he came back and said, okay, what else besides cap rates would you recommend looking at before I get serious about properties? Okay, so I did write down 4 other things to consider. Okay, one is the crime rate. Okay, so crime rate is one of those things, even though you're not living there and maybe you're not even in that town or the city, crime rates are really important. Okay, now I do have a funny story about that, because over the summer we were traveling in Thunder Bay, Ontario, and Thunder Bay, Ontario is a small town. The population hasn't grown in over 20 years. Okay, so it's been stuck at like 120,000 people roughly. And we were having a joke, because Thunder Bay has the highest crime rate in all of Canada, like all of Canada. And so we're actually joking that, hey, if you're going to be great at something, be number 1 at it. It doesn't matter what it is. Okay. So Thunder Bay is like the highest crime rate, which is really funny. Now, here's the thing though with that, because I was really surprised that it was consistently year after year, Thunder Bay was really, really high. And so I actually did a little bit of research on that. And it turns out that they were the highest for homicides. So there's different levels of crime. which was surprising for me to actually like clue in that, hey, you know what, there's breaking home entry break-ins, there's, you know, small petty stuff like that, but then there's bigger level crime like homicide. And so Thunder Bay is number one for that. Okay, now I might be wrong about it being across Canada. It might just be number one in Ontario. So don't quote me on Thunder Bay being the number one crime rate, but they are number one. Okay, whether it's Ontario or Canada, I'm drawing a blank there now. Okay, so crime rate is definitely one of the things that you want to look at. The second thing that you want to look at, in addition to cap rates, is this city or town in a secondary or tertiary location? Meaning that, you know, with the interest rates now, with, you know, things being really crazy around the market, you may not want to buy in a primary market like BC or Toronto. Okay, so maybe going 2 to 4 hours out, even 6 hours out, you know, maybe getting into a secondary or tertiary market may be a better fit. Okay, and the reason why you want to look in those areas is because as the primary markets expand, they're going to go into the secondary and tertiary market. Okay, so if you're thinking, but that could take years. Well, yeah, real estate is a long game. It's not next year benefits, right? If you see the returns in 12 to 2 years, that's fantastic. But usually you want to ride it out for more than 5 years. Okay, real estate goes up and down like crazy all the time. Okay, so you can't just be like, okay, I've got one strategy and it's going to be this in 2 years. You've got to be a little bit flexible in your exit strategies. Okay, so you want to make sure that you consider these outer markets. Okay, the third thing that I would also suggest that you look at is making sure that it's not a one industry town, meaning that there's only one source of employment for everybody that lives there. Okay, so over the summer, we had the pleasure of traveling through Leavenworth in the US. Okay, and so this would be one of those cases where there are exceptions. Okay, meaning, you know, this really was a one industry town, and yet they were doing very well. They're booming. So the housing market there was, you know, reasonable. There was lots of employment there. Okay, so Leavenworth is an old town that basically was like almost became a ghost town. Like there was no industry, no business, no nothing. Like nobody was going there. Okay, and then a handful of really creative residences said, hey, you know what, there's a ski hill close by, why don't we convert this town into, you know, like a Dutch city, right? And so they converted it. So, and there's a whole theme. So if you go there, it's like you're being transported to a little European town. It's beautiful there. So a little bit pricey, like it's very touristy now. So that is an example of a one industry town. Okay, but it works. Okay, but you're not going to find that in the majority of the places that you look at. So you want to avoid these one industry towns. It needs to have at least 2 or 3, you know, ideally 4 types of industries that can employ people, that can give people jobs to pay rent. Okay, so okay, so then the last thing is figuring out what type of strategy when it comes to partnerships you're going to be doing. Okay, if you're planning on buying properties completely on your own or with your partner, right, you're going to reach a certain ceiling at some point on how much money you can borrow, how much you can leverage, how much you can get access to. So if that's, you know, if that's your strategy, that's fine, but just then be aware that you can only tap into so much. And so then the types of properties that you're going to look at is going to be to meet those criteria. Now, if you're going to be partnering with other people, doing joint ventures or like GPLPs or shareholders, then, you know, you're able to leverage more, you're able to access more cash. Okay, so then at that point, you're going to be looking at different types of properties. So figure out, you know, what your structure is, and then focus on those types of properties. Okay, so for example, like right now, I'm doing a lot of LPGP shareholders, JVs. So the properties that I'm looking at are in the millions, like multifamily buildings, because we're able to raise the money to be able to buy these bigger multifamilies. Right. So I'm not looking at the duplexes or the triplexes anymore. Like we're looking into the 10 plus units. Okay. So you want to keep that in mind. So when you're looking at your partnership structure, you also want to do a SWOT analysis on yourself. Okay. This is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And you can Google that or YouTube it. There's so much information about doing the SWOT analysis. The reason why you want to do this SWOT analysis is to know what you bring to the table and why you're a good person to partner with, okay, and why you're a strong team, okay? And then you also look at your opportunities and your threats and figure out how to make those threats benefit you. Like what are the opportunities? What are the weaknesses that you have that maybe somebody else can come in and complement that? How can you turn those weaknesses into strengths? Okay, so doing the SWOT analysis and then figuring out your partnership structure. Okay, so that is my answer to your question about what else besides cap rates should you look at. Okay, thank you, Marco, for sharing that. And that was on the Bigger Pockets platform. Okay, so if you're not on Bigger Pockets and you want to get into real estate, I do suggest you log in, get an account. It's free, so it doesn't cost anything. And then if you want to use some of their other stuff, there is a cost to that. Okay, so just a time check. We have about 10 minutes left. Okay, so I'm going to do one more question, and then we will go into the analysis on North Battleford. Okay, so this one is from Austin, and this is from the REAN platform. So let me see if I can find the original question that came up from that. All right, so here we go. Okay, so this is from Austin, not the city Austin, but an individual named Austin. Currently have land secured and some initial funding for a new development. So that's fantastic. Land can accommodate 6 to 7 32-unit rental apartment complexes. Okay, that's amazing. That's a lot of units. The plan is to begin with 2 buildings and look at adding in the future as many as demand for the area grows and more capital becomes available. The landowner wants to contribute the land as equity to the project. Oh my God, that's a dream. Okay. And we have a few initial investors totaling $400K in cash. Based on some of the modeling, we would feel more comfortable beginning the build with $1 million in committed capital. Okay, so that makes sense. I'm wondering what avenues others have used to source capital for builds like this and any recommendations or tips. Okay, the project is solid. The demand for the first 2 buildings are there. And but we feel as though we've tapped as much equity as we can from the small group planning the build without sourcing outside equity capital partners. Any advice, leads, or guidance would be appreciated. Okay, so we're going to break this down because there's an initial concern that I have already is the $400K of cash from the initial investors. One is, I would suggest, Austin, is that if they are not family or close friends, they need to be accredited. So then you want to make sure that whoever's bringing in this 400, the group of them, each person has to be accredited. Otherwise, that could open you up for some issues down the road with securities. Okay, so you definitely want to make sure that whoever this initial group is, all of them are accredited. Okay, and if your landowner is coming in with the land and they own it outright, that value of the land is actually part of the equity that is needed for the construction. So your question here doesn't go into, how much, like if there's a mortgage on the land, stuff like that. So part of your analysis on running this is that whatever value of the land is, that's part of the equity that would be required for a construction loan. And so construction loans, usually need 30 to 40% in equity. right, in liquid cash totaling. So if your build for the 2 buildings, let's just say, is 4 million, okay, then, well, actually, no, sorry, it's going to be way more than that, because you're planning on building 32 units. So it's probably 4 million for one building at a minimum. Okay. And depending on where you are in Canada, you will probably use anywhere from 210 to maybe 250 a square foot. And then it depends on how big these units are, right? So you can calculate the estimated cost of build. Then you want to include your buffers for soft costs like drawings, environmental assessments, and all that stuff. Okay, and then permitting and working with consultants. So you want to include a percentage there for all those costs, and you also want to include a cost for holding, like a holding cost. So like some legal costs. Is there any property taxes, insurance, all of that stuff? So holding costs. Then the rest of the money can be through a private lender, or it can be through a construction loan. Okay, so, and then depending on where you are, you can get that construction loan through a bank. Okay, a traditional construction loan without going through a private lender. Okay, so the notes that I have here to share with you is that, okay, if the landowner owns the land, that equity is already part of that equity that you need as the down payment. So that's fantastic. The other thing that you could do to get that capital that you need to start the first build is to use an exempt market dealer. Okay, there are a lot of them in Canada. So depending on your conversations with the exempt market dealers, you can negotiate on their rate. You can negotiate, maybe they get a percentage fee plus some percentage equity. Okay, so there's ways to structure that. You just make sure that the numbers work, because some of these exempt market dealers charge anywhere from 3 to 7 to 8% for the amount of money that they raise. So it's not it's not a cheap option, okay, but it can be a great option in your case if you don't have access to individuals with cash. Okay, so now, which leads me to my next point, is that you want to expand your pool of money. Okay, so you've been able to raise 400. So I would suggest that you get a letter of intent with those investors to make sure that they are willing to give you that money when you really need it. Ideally, if you can open up a trust account with a lawyer and have that money already sitting in a bank account with your lawyer, that would be fantastic, because then that means that the money's there. A lot of times when it comes time to showing that money, the investors are not able to do it. Okay, so even if they can put 10 or 15% as earnest money in, that is ideal. Okay, so you want to expand your pool of money. So doing the exempt market dealer is one way to do that. Meeting with other individuals, center of influences, that may also be another way to increase your pool of money partners. Okay, but you definitely want to make sure that you understand the accredited investor criterias, so that you're working with the right people. Okay, then the last suggestion that I have, and I'll see if I can find this example there, because I've seen other individuals do this before, is where they subdivide the land. So you don't technically have to subdivide the land and parcel everything out on paper and have like switch titles and stuff, but ideally you do want to do that. Okay, so you want to subdivide the land and then partner with builders who can actually build you this 32 unit building. Okay, and the reason that you want to partner up with these builders is, one, you give them some of the equity, okay, and you're de-risking it, so you're sharing the risk with them. Also, they're motivated to follow a certain schedule, because a lot of times on projects, the schedule's pushed out and pushed out and pushed out. So with the builder, they want to build on time, because they know that they're not going to see any money until it's built. Okay, and so if you partner up with a builder, you're spreading the risk with them, but also these builders have access to 3 to 5 times the cost of the build. Okay, meaning that they already have a source of approved funds usually sitting available to them from a bank or from a private lender already. So then that way you yourself or your smaller team doesn't need to qualify for it. Okay, so now you could, if somebody within your team is a high net worth individual, you could talk to them about being a loan sponsor. So that would be another way of doing it. But if you partner up with a builder, that is definitely one way to do it. Okay, the loan sponsor, since you're going to be building 6 to 7 32-unit buildings, either you're going to have several loan sponsors where subdividing the land would allow you to keep everything really nice and compartmentalized. Okay, that would make it easier. But if you're going to keep all 6 to 7 buildings together, you're going to need somebody with a really high net worth to be your loan sponsor, which may be a challenge, right? Because not everybody has access to one individual that has that much net worth. Okay, so Austin, those are my questions, my answers to your questions. And you're in a great position here. So you just have to make the connections, and oh my God, what a great opportunity. Okay, so now let me share with you guys the North Battleford search. All right, so we are over here. So give me a minute here. I'm going to bring up the realtor.ca and you will see, let's see here. Okay, so here's the realtor.ca screen. Okay, so this is North Battleford. It's not a big city. I would say it's a town. It's in Saskatchewan. Okay, and one of the reasons why I'm choosing this is because of the price point of what's available there. So all I did was I entered realtor.ca, typed in North Battleford in Saskatchewan, and as you can see, there's 180 listings here. So that's actually, a lot of listings for a small town like this. So let's see here. So if you don't know where that is, okay, it's right there. And I'm going to just zoom out a bit so that you could see where Saskatoon is right there. Okay, so I would say, this is almost like a second tertiary market. Okay. All right. So we're going to go back in because I don't want all those other listings to show up. Okay. And what I'm going to do now is just go into the filters, and actually, you know what? I'm going to back up here so you can see that there's a lot of listings here, but what I don't want is a single family home, right? If you're living close by North Battleford, then it makes sense to maybe look at single families and then, hey, adding a duplex, like an in-law suite or something to it. But it does become a lot of work. And so if you have to pay a property manager to help you manage a single, I'm not sure that the numbers will be there. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just do a filter, and I'm going to put in building type. Okay, so I want something that is multi-family. So where is it? Commercial, no, manufactured, mobile, apartment right there. So I'm going to go to apartment. I'm going to get rid of this 3+ and put any there. Okay, and let's just see what comes up for buildings. So these are condos here. So I don't want to buy a condo. Okay, a condo is usually not a good investment, okay, because of the condo fees that are associated with it, and there's no alternative exit strategy for a condo. Like a condo is a condo. Like you can't really do anything more with a condo. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to my filters. Okay, and I want to go. Okay, multifamily. There used to be, unless I'm in the wrong one here. Oh, property type. Here we go, multifamily. So let's go back there. Ownership unlimited. Okay, there we go, property type. So there's 2 apartment buildings for sale in North Battleford. Only 2. So see, that automatically, narrows down the amount of time that I have to spend analyzing properties in North Battleford. So let's look at this one here, 1.5 million. All right. And it is called, there's the name there. And so you could see all the pictures here. All right. So Birchwood. Okay, nice building. Okay, so looks pretty good. Okay, so I just like looking at buildings rather than physically going there and doing the walkthrough. Although walkthroughs do have a benefit because it's different when you're there and actually seeing the building. Okay, so here we're going to go back. Close that. Okay, let's see if we have any numbers here. So excellent investment opportunity, fully rented, low vacancy. Okay, 14 units. 14 units, 6 1-beds and 7 2-beds, and 1 3-bedroom suites. Okay, all units feature, okay, stuff. Oh, look at this, assumable CMHC mortgage of 2.16. Okay, that is amazing. Okay, balance 986. Oh my gosh. Okay, so what that means is you only need to have a down payment of the difference of 1.5, okay, minus that, okay? So quick math, it's about 550,000. So if you have $550,000 of your own or with partners, you can go in and get a 14-unit building, okay, assumable. Okay, so that means, okay, so you still need to qualify for this in the sense that you have to provide your credentials, okay, as to why they should allow you to assume this mortgage. So as long as you have the experience or your people on your team have the experience, it shouldn't be a problem doing this, okay? So you can qualify for the 2.16 interest rate. Okay, so this definitely warrants a calculation here. So what I'm going to do is bring up my Excel sheet. Okay, so I like to use Excel. If you are not comfortable with Excel, that's totally fine, because what you could do is actually use the Bigger Pockets spreadsheet, which is online, or you could use Deal Check. That's another way to do it as well. I like to use my own Excel sheet, partly because that's how I've always done it, and also because this spreadsheet came from Don Campbell of Reen. And you know, when I started, the Bigger Pockets platform wasn't like, I wasn't aware of it. Okay, so let's go in here. So you should see the Excel sheet. So let me see here. All right, so you should see the Excel sheet. I'm going to be typing in the information here. And so, okay, so this is North Battleford. Okay, SK. So asking price 1.5. 5. Okay, buying price. So at this point, I'm assuming that I am not negotiating on the price. I just want to see if it's going to work. So I'm going to put 50K there just as a spot holder for that. So on the listing, it says 6 1-beds. Okay, number of there. So I'm going to go 6, and then I'm going to go over here. 6 1-beds. Okay, and then there's 7 2-beds. Okay, 7 2-beds, and then there's 1 3-beds, 1 3-bed. Okay, so then we're going to go 1. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to basically just estimate how much the rent is here, because we don't have the rent roll or the expenses yet without contacting the agent. Sometimes they have the documents attached here. So let me see if it's in here. Okay, sorry. So I've got a dual screen and I'm looking to see. No, I'm not seeing any other documents attached. So it's fairly simple to get the expense roll, the rent and expense rolls. What you do is you just contact the agent and ask them. Okay, so I'm just going to say here, so I'm just going to go equal 6 star, and I'm just going to estimate that the 1 bedrooms are $1,000. Okay, I may be completely off on this, but that's where the due diligence comes in after. At this point, I just want to see what the cash flow would be like. Okay, so then we're going to go equal 7 star. Maybe this one is 1,100, so $100 more. I don't know. Okay, and then 1 star, maybe 1,200 for the 1 bedroom. Okay, so there's no increase in the rents because, or the projected rents, because I'm assuming that we're going to be getting market rent at this point. Okay, so then I'm going to go here and taxes. Let's see if there's anything listed here for taxes. Oh, the annual taxes is $22,700. So I'm just going to go in here and type in $22,700. Okay, the insurance, no idea. So I'm just going to put in 10,000 here. That's a good number. Property management, 10%, repairs 5%, vacancy 8%, and other 5%. So the 5% could be, I don't know, like legals, bookkeeping, gift cards, okay, anything like that. Okay, and so as you can see, I don't have hydro or gas, so you do need some of that as well. So I'm just going to go in here and say it's $100 star 14 units. Okay, so hopefully the tenants are paying their own. I don't know if North Battleford even charges for water, so we will leave that as it is. Okay, so we're going to say the balance here. So we're going to go 2.19, and we need about 30% down payment. Okay, so we need 35. Okay, so yeah, so we need roughly about 35% down payment, or 525 roughly. That's going to give us a balance of 975, which is close to what they have right now of 986. Okay, I'm going to put in the interest rate of 2.016. Okay, it's 2.16. Okay, so look at this. So the cash flow is $4,200 a month. Okay, and this is based on, okay, a couple of factors here without knowing the true expenses, but you can see I have a lot of buffers in here. Okay, and then assuming that the rents are this amount. Okay, so even if the rents are not this high, you have $4,000 of potential cash flow here that you could work with. Okay, all right, so I'm going to stop there. I think this one may warrant a further look, so I'm sharing it with you guys. All right, so if you, all right, so I'm looking for all my cue cards. Okay, so I will see you back here at the same time next Monday. My plan is to do this for the next 3 months, so hopefully, yeah, we succeed. If you have any questions that you would like me to answer related to real estate, please feel free to email me. Okay, and I will dump my email address into the chat box. Okay, and feel free to email me if you have any questions. As well, you could feel free to come on with me while I am doing these calls. Now, if you want to see me before next Monday, follow me on YouTube or Facebook, or schedule a complimentary one-on-one, and I will see, do I have my scheduler? Yes, I have my scheduler available, so then you can also book a complimentary one-on-one call. Ooh, I don't think that copied over well. Let me see here. Yeah, no, I did not copy all that over. Okay, so there we go. Here is the online calendar that you can book with me if you'd like to have a one-on-one conversation with me before next Monday. All right, thank you, everybody. Thank you for watching. Bye.